We just call the render function and it will figure out what to update and what not to update. Now, for the removal, it's sort of a similar thing. Actually, one thing I want to do for a to-do, well, let's see, let's wait for that. No, I was thinking like making sure that the to-do gets that the message gets striked through when it's done, but let's leave that for now. Now it's not really important. So the deletion of to-dos is quite similar to what we do here, but in the other direction. So what do I mean by that? We say that data item is our to-dos dot find a to-do that has an ID that is the same as our to-do element of the attribute. So there we go. If not data item, then we just remove the to-do element from our to-do list. There you go. So in a very basic sense, this should take care of adding and updating the UI, adding and deleting. Now, there is one thing. So adding and deleting is done, but updating not yet. So we might have to write a specific function for that. But we're going to put it off for now. We're just going to keep this very simple. So we have our data. We have our renderer. The one thing we do not have is how we have a UI as well. The one thing we don't have is a glue between all those things. So how are we going to provide this? We'll wire some events first. What we need is a reference to our input elements. So our message inputs, and we know our message input is called message. We need a reference to our button, add to do button, which I am not sure, so let's have peak. I'm gonna give it 90 just to make it a bit more consistent here. Now for inputs, I'm not opposed to using IDs as a selector, because it's pretty obvious that if you put a button, you're gonna add some JavaScript to it. So that makes perfect sense to me. So we have those two, and now we have to wire some events to it. The last thing that we will need is adding events to the buttons, to the checkboxes, but we'll do that later. Because for now I don't see how we can quickly add that logic here instead of adding it inside the create to do item without making it more complex. So let's put off for now. it's very simple. When the Add to Do button gets clicked, we want to on Add to Do button clicked. And we'll just provide that implementation here. It expects an event. Now the event that we expect has, well, actually we don't really care about the event, so I'm just gonna make it an underscore because we don't really care. Actually, we don't even have to add it. We're not interested in the events or the data of the event. So what we will do is we get the value of our measured inputs, and we take that value. Well, first of all, if it's empty, just return. We're not going to add empty to-dos. But if there is a message, what we will do is we will add it to our to-dos data. So how do we do that? We have our data service, and we do .add. Our ID will be, actually we don't need to provide that. What we will provide is the message is our value, status is false, and after that we'll clear our inputs so we do not accidentally add the same thing twice. Also, the next time we add, we don't have to delete it, so it serves multiple UX points for us, so that's great. So there we go. This should allow us to add our to-dos. So I haven't checked anything. There's a very big chance that I made a lot of mistakes here, so we'll have to fix them as we go. There you go, first mistake. I'm not sure why I would do that. That's not really necessary. Good. I'm going to debug our application because, of course, things will go wrong. My new task. So there you go, nothing happened. That's already interesting. It's not that interesting because I just completely forgot to run this. So we'll just add init and run, and we just do const f equals new to do new. No, not new, just to do app. I'm not working with objects here. There we go. Okay, here we go. Debugging. So you can see at line 40 something is wrong. ID doesn't exist, it's todo.id, so that's a small mistake. Let's continue. And this is about the worst you can get because we do not have an error, which is always a little bit nerve-wracking. But not to worry. We can add breakpoints. One thing we also didn't do is tell our UI to render. So one thing we have to do now is when this occurs, we call our renderer and call a render function, and we pass in the list of to-dos. There you go. That's important. We also call that just as soon as. Actually, we don't need to do it beforehand. Okay. Data service. That's small typo. Now it seems that we somehow deleted part of the UI, which is very interesting. We accidentally delete our to-dos list, which is quite interesting. So let's put a debugger statement here, because this is where we remove elements. Okay, see, this is already interesting. So I think child nodes is the wrong thing to use here. I think children is correcting, because nodes also include text nodes, which is sort of a special case. It's not really an HTML element, but it's still considered as a part of the DOM. So for some reason it thought that text was a node. Okay, what's interesting now is we have a to-dos, but there's nothing in there. I'm gonna quickly figure out what's wrong, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so there were a couple of mistakes in my code. The most important one was at the add to do stage, we created a new to do, but we added a new ID, so that was all great. We checked if there wasn't a duplicate, that's all great, but then I completely forgot to actually add the to-do to the to-do list, which of course makes it not work. The other thing is I tried to do find on to-do list.children, but to-do list.children is actually not an array. So what I do here is I just wrap it in array.from, and then it turns it into an array, so we can then just call the find method.